the week before I got clean, right? I'm living in Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, Upland, California, and all I'm doing is doing drugs for 3 years in that area, and I can't get out of that area. I cannot seem to get out of there. Well, my buddy Danny, he goes, "Hey, bro, we're gonna go be vendors up north now, up in Redding." And he goes, we're gonna go be vendors up there at a parade. And I said, cool. And he goes, "Hey, bro, I don't want you to bring any syringes because I don't want you to embarrass us when you're up there." I said, okay. Even though in my mind I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? So we end up going up there. So God takes me out of my environment. The Lord takes me out of my environment up to Redding, California now. And when I get up there, I start seeing where they're vendors, dude. Everyone's getting high, man. You know what I'm saying? They're like parties, So I tell my boy, I said, "Bro, these guys are all getting high." So I go to a Rite Aid to get a syringe. Well, up there in Redding, they don't give you syringes without prescription. So I couldn't get one at Rite Aid. I couldn't get one at CVS. And then I walk all the way to Walmart, right? And I go and I get into the front of the line, and the lady goes, "No, sorry, sir, you don't have a prescription." And I literally, dude, I tell her, I said, "Ma'am, I'm on drugs and I need a syringe." And she looks at me and she goes, "No, get out of my store, you junkie." I walk out to the side of the building and I literally drop down and I just start crying, dude. And that was the moment, like the prodigal son in the pig slop, where he looked and I looked and I said, I cannot do this no more. But when I look back at my story, God plucked me out of that area, took me up there to where I couldn't get what I was addicted to. And then I came home and I turned myself in and I started my recovery at that moment.
Hey, yo, welcome to the Godcast.
Nothing is as it seems. Nothing. I mean, literally, nothing is as it seems.
We took authority for truth instead of truth as our authority.
The great deception is still to come.
Not every human you see is human.
A lot of us equate our value in life to the things that we have or the things we're able to acquire, and not the things that we're able to pass on.
But just sharing this story allows those people who are just starting out to recognize that there's somewhere to go.
Do you find solidarity within the differences, or do you find division within the similarities?
And it was a battle for my soul.
It's not if you buck means the gospel. What's up now?
Welcome to Godcast,
The Goodness Over Darkness podcast.
Here's your host, Emmanuel Kingman.
It's showtime. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Godcast, The Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I am your host, Emmanuel Kingman, and Mimi had to step away. We had a family emergency going on, so she is not here for the intro. She came in late for the interview, so you will see her a bit in the interview. She just had to step away. So our special guest today was Monte Mansfield, and Monte is a former professional baseball player. He played for the Houston Astros Organization for 7 years, and then he played in Canada for 3 years, and then he turned to drugs and crime and was living an unclean life and went to prison, and then through praying to God, he was healed of his addiction, and now he works in conjunction with, or he works with people who are in rehab. So it's a beautiful story. You guys are really going to get a kick out of this one. Make sure you go check out all of Monte's stuff, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Go send him some love. I want to thank you all for being here. It really means a lot to me that you guys would choose to listen to my podcast, spend your time listening to this podcast. There's so many choices out there. I just want to thank you all for being here. And since you are here, if you enjoy the content that you're hearing, and if you want to financially support, you can sign up on the Patreon. It's $3 per month, and also I have a $5 option per month, and that'll get you everything that the $3 option gets you, as well as you can watch or you can join the live Q&A. So that's always a fun time. Nomad's been joining me on the Q&A as of late, and it's been great. Let's see. Also, if you can't financially support, but you would like to support the show, if you could give a like, a comment, a share, you could subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this at. That would be greatly appreciated. It really helps the show grow, and it's something free that you can do. Just click a button, give a 5-star on Spotify or Apple or whatever podcatcher that you're listening to us on. That would be amazing. Make sure you check out all Monty stuff. Go to my website, emmanuelkingman.com. That's IMMANUEL Kingman.com. It's here on the screen for you guys in case you're unfamiliar with it. It's always in the description as well. All of my stuff, all of my guest stuff is at the top, and then my stuff is at the bottom. Stay tuned at the end of the episode for the outro. And without further ado, here is Monte Mansfield.
Welcome to the Godcast. Cross up on my back, I'm slaying demons. It don't matter what you call that. Searching for the truth, facts are facts until they fall flat. It's looking like a story, man, it's all cap. But it's goodness over darkness, it ain't all bad. I'm at my maker, but I was called back. Emmanuel, show my people they're under a spell. Heaven or hell is free will. I made my choice and now it's well with my soul. I pray the same for you as well. Welcome to the Godcast. Welcome to the Godcast.
Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I have on a guest who is a former professional baseball player. He went from playing 10 years for the Houston Astros Organization to becoming addicted to Adderall, meth, and heroin. After being arrested for a felony, Jesus Christ saved him and started him on a new path of redemption. Everyone welcome Monte Mansfield to the show. Welcome to the show, Monty.
How's everyone doing tonight, man? Super thankful to be here. Just super grateful.
Yeah, I'm thankful to have you here. So we linked up through Josh and Jason Monday. I heard you on their podcast. You have a wonderful testimony, and I am very much looking forward to getting into it tonight. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so, okay, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Monty. I had played professional baseball. I played in the Houston Astros organization. I played for 7 years with the Houston Astros, and then I tried to play in other leagues outside of organized baseball to try to keep my dream alive, and during this time, I got hooked on Adderall, and then my addiction got to worse. It took over to being on meth and then heroin, and then I ended up catching a felony, ended up turning my life around. Just super thankful, man. And when I share my testimony right here, I just want you guys to know that this is all the glory to God. That the only thing that can explain what has happened in my life is the Lord, and me finally turning my life over to the Lord. And like I said, I felt like he was tapping on me for a long time, but I just continued to want to chase earthly pleasures. I didn't want to turn my life over to him. I wanted to continue to just do my own thing, feed the flesh. And I finally hit the gift of desperation that was able to change my whole entire life. But before I share my testimony, I would like to talk about a parable that saved my life. It's called it's about the prodigal son, and when I think about this parable, it totally relates to my life on how I came back to God and how I cling to the Lord so much now because I know that he is the way and the truth. But there's these two brothers, and they live out at their father's ranch, and one of the brothers asked for his inheritance. He asked for his inheritance, and the dad, he grants him with it. So what does the kid do? The one brother, he goes out and he chases worldly pleasures. He chases booze, chases women, and he squanders his whole inheritance, until he has absolutely nothing. And then famine hits the city, so he ends up working at a pig's farm, and he's in the pig slop, and he's looking at the pigs, and he's looking out there, and he's thinking to himself, man, he goes, the servants at my dad's ranch get treated better than I do. And I call that the gift of desperation. He had that moment where he was like, it's time for me to go home, and he returned back to his house. Well, he was full of shame and full of guilt, and he felt his shame and guilt going back home. But when his father seen him from a distance, he started screaming and shouting, and he was super happy, and he was excited for his son to come home. And he told the servants to kill the biggest calf, and he wanted to throw a party for him as he returned. And the other brother, seen from a distance, he was jealous, and he went up to his father and he said, "Father," he said, "why are you why are you killing the biggest calf? Why are you throwing a party for my brother? He squandered all your inheritance, you know." And he looked at his son. He said, "Well, son, you've been with me the whole time. You've lived under my roof, and you've had, you know, the anointing of our life here at the ranch. But my other son, he left and he saw what was out there, and he saw that it wasn't good, and now he's come back home." And now it's time to throw a party for him because he will never leave. He will always be back home. And I love that parable right there because it relates to me in my life. For me, guys, I grew up in a household where my dad, he was on methamphetamine. He was a hardworking man. Don't get me wrong. My dad worked hard, but methamphetamine had taken over his life like it does to every single one of us that gets addicted to the devil's playground. My mom was a sober. She was a sober woman. She stayed sober her whole life, still sober. But we used to fight a lot because she was a good mom. And when you're trying to go out there and chase pleasures, you don't want to listen to people that are actually trying to help you. You're trying to push them away because they're telling you that you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. So during my childhood, I really didn't get the I really wasn't able to get the foundation that I needed to be able to handle professional baseball. You guys got to understand the devil has every opportunity to come at you as a professional athlete. You have to be very, very strong in that type of field, because when you leave the locker room, the devil has everything to offer you. And if you're chasing pleasures and you're chasing earthly things, you're gonna fall apart. You know what I'm saying? For me,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, Todd? And for me, I
want
got
to hop
drafted.
in.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to touch on that parable. I mean, it's super powerful.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people can relate to being one or the other, because a lot of people who are in the church who are doing things of God, they sometimes well, I'll say for me, because I was granted these spiritual gifts all of a sudden, that they'll look at me and they'll say, "Why does he get the spiritual gifts? He was this screw up who did all these different things and he left, and I've been here the whole time." And it's so perfect that the Father says, "Well, you've been here enjoying me this entire time. He was out suffering because he left." And the other person doesn't know that. So I totally relate with that second one, the son who left and then comes back and enjoys the biggest party. I mean, I feel like every day of my life is a celebration. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's how I feel too. You know, I feel so grateful to be able to, like I said, you know, the Lord, you know, he'll come a million steps at you, but he wants you to make that one last step towards him, you know. And it's so hard for people to choose that last step, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to wander on this planet no more. You know, I'm not going to be like the Israelites. They were shown the light, they were shown the way, and they wandered in the wilderness, dude, for 40 years. You know, I feel like I was shown the truth and I was shown the way. And, you know, I'm going to spread the good news because now I have this powerful, amazing ability now that God gave me to share the good news on how I've been redeemed. And to me, it's like the most amazing purpose in the world because it cannot be taken from you. It's not something you have to work out for. You just got to continue to seek him. Like in baseball, as a baseball player, I had to stay physically fit. There was going to be a time where I was physically not going to be able to do it anymore. You know, for me, I made baseball my God, and it's all I cared about. I was a very hard worker at my sport. I trained very hard. I woke up and I trained. I hit the gym. I really cared about my sport and my craft, but I also loved to chase earthly pleasures. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about the gift of being able to spread the good news is that you can do this when you're 90 years old on your deathbed, man. You can share the good news. You know, this is a gift that's given by God, and it's just something to really enjoy, you know, and I love doing it. And I'm just thankful to be able to spread the good news.
Yeah, that's amazing. I relate in a slightly different way. I didn't ever make it to the levels that you made it. I was a pitcher as well. I was on my way to, if I had started working out and had kept with it, to at least minor league ball. I was getting all the accolades as a kid. You know, 13 years old. I'm pitching against 16-year-olds, and I'm starting in the All-Star game, and you know, it's just like I was there. And then at 14, 15, I start doing drugs, start chasing girls, and I'm like, I don't care about baseball. It wasn't what it used to be for me. It used to be a challenge, and I used to overcome by facing bigger and better competition. And then at some point, it kind of teetered out for me, and I got bored with it. So, but like you said, you made sports your God, and I had sports as my God, as I knew every statistic about the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL. I didn't really pay attention to too much, but even NASCAR, I would pay attention to a little bit, boxing, UFC, all of it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of sports. I consumed sports. That is what my family consumed. That's how we all interacted. Uh, if we weren't talking about different work things, we were talking about sports. That were the only two discussions in the household, and it was uh, four sons, a father, and a mother. So there's not female energy in there really. My dad was brought up; he was abused as a child, physically abused. So he loved us very much, and he still does. And he didn't abuse us at all, but he wasn't able to show us the love that Jesus shows me because he never felt it himself. So it's a different thing. But I totally relate to what you're saying with making something sports specifically your god, and your whole life revolves around that. It went from sports to drugs for me, and obviously that's what happened with you too. So yeah, do you want to get into your being drafted and how that all went?
Yeah, so I was drafted my senior year of high school. I ended up going from like 5'11" to being 6'4", throwing 93 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, my I love basketball. I love basketball with all my heart because it's a sport where like the tip off happens, and if you just play hard, you can kind of hide and you can always be a good player as long as you play hard. Baseball's a little more complicated, dude. You know, you got to be able to put the ball on the money. You got to be able to throw strikes. It's a very hard sport, and I understand why a lot of kids end up going to drugs early on, because when they're in high school, they end up going, and baseball's hard. It's a game of failure. So you're going to continue to have failure. Well, that doesn't feel good. So what happens is a lot of kids go out to the party scene and they start to feel good because, like I said, what drugs do is they disguise themselves as hell, and then they disguise themselves as heaven, and then they take you straight to hell. So what happens is it feels great at first because you're messing with the dopamine process. And what happens is a lot of kids end up gravitating more towards the party life, and they forget about baseball. I had two cousins that overdosed on fentanyl and died that were really good athletes, and then they kind of fell off in high school and they ended up passing away in their early 20s. But for me, I was drafted by the Cleveland Indians. I was 6'4", 93 miles an hour. I was like the best player in my hometown. Not having any failure in my life at that point, really. I was spoiled by the community. At all my all-star games, the whole community would show up. So I kind of had this sense of pride, you know, and everything was going well for me. I got drafted by the Cleveland Indians in the 11th round, and I was angry about that. The night before the draft, the Anaheim Angels called me and told me, if you don't get taken by the 3rd round, we're going to take you in the draft. So I had all these scouts. Yeah, I had all these scouts taking me out to dinner, feeding me all this stuff, telling me all these things. And you guys got to understand that these scouts, man, they have a job to do. So, you know, they're just human too, and I forgive them. But a lot of them, they'll pump your head up, they'll tell you things, but they really don't have all the answers, dude. So I ended up going in the 11th round. I ended up getting offered $50,000. I'm ready to sign because once I found out I was going to be able to go pro, I kind of put school on the back burner and I kind of just focused on playing baseball. But my agent flew down. We had a little dinner, or not a dinner, but some food over at the Dairy Queen right there off Main Street in my hometown. He told me to go to college. He said, you can get more money than that. So we were going after only the money. We wanted more money, chasing earthly pleasures. I ended up going to Riverside Community College. I ended up going 14-1. We win the national championship. I go in the 16th round, but now I have a little bit more experience with negotiating. So I ended up signing for $120,000 at 19 years old with absolutely no foundation to be able to handle that type of money.
Well, so let me ask you about the scouts real quick, because a question popped in my mind when you were talking about them. Do you think that they were pumping your head up to see how you would react to what they're saying, to see if maybe someone else is talking to you also, and if that, then you know, depending on how you react, do you think that they were gauging your reaction to see as a strategic thing against their opponents versus, you know, I want to actually communicate with this person?
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of things going on. I know that when I was going to dinner with them, they were taking me to the nicest steakhouses, you know, and they were giving me psychological tests, you know. So there was probably a lot of things going on with all that, you know what I'm saying? It's just the thing, the one scout, the one scout that was real honest with me, and it was the Houston Astros scout, Mel Nelson, and that's who drafted me. And he told me, he said, Monty, you can make it to the big leagues barring injury. And that's pretty accurate. A lot of us have the ability when we have the athletic ability to get to the big leagues, but a lot of us fall off because of injury. And that's what ends up taking us out. You know, the thing about being a professional athlete is you got to be super consistent. You got to be able to come and show up every single day. You got to be able to forget about the past. That's why a lot of the guys I played with that actually were reading the Bible, that believed in the Lord, man, they were studs. And I used to walk by them in the locker room and be like, man, miss me with that. They're naive. I used to think they were naive and that they didn't know what was really going on, you know, but now they've stayed consistent. And now, like, I talked to a few of them. Some of them got to the big leagues. Some of them are now spreading the good news, but they're all doing pretty well in life. And I totally took up the whole thing of like, man, I'm going to hang out with the guys that play hard and party harder. And like Pete Rose was my favorite player. And that's the type of player I looked at. But I totally wish now, if I look back, I would have gotten more involved with baseball chapel, would have got more involved with the Bible studies that were going on. But also because God makes our past make sense, I'm thankful it's crazy, but now I'm almost thankful for my drug addiction, because now I feel like I am who I'm supposed to be. Like I feel like I found the Lord and I cling to the Lord like the prodigal son because of the addiction and because of what I've gone through in my life.
Right, that's beautiful. Were these players, were they older players or were they young?
So they were younger. You know, they were younger and early on in baseball, and a lot of the older guys, but a lot of the younger kids, there were some older guys, but usually the older guys were in the big leagues. See, I got to AAA, so I didn't make it to the major leagues. So a lot of your older guys were big leaguers, and a lot of the older guys in the minor leagues were like guys that drank every night. They just hadn't figured it out. You know what I mean?
So they're like 23, 25, something like that.
Yeah, there you go. 23, 25, and then in AAA, like 27, and then like an old guy would be like a veteran would be 32, 33. Okay. And as I started going up through the minor leagues, you know, I would party, I would drink, I would, you know, smoke marijuana at that time. And for me, because you know, I was constantly trying to figure out baseball, and I was struggling, and baseball was my God, and I was up and down. And then I had a couple seasons where I was struggling with throwing strikes. And during those 2 seasons when I was struggling going strikes is where my drinking got really heavy, because all I could do is escape after every game. And I was so embarrassed because it's like God took away my talent. I couldn't throw strikes for 2 years, but I was such a good locker room guy, such a positive person, that the Astros continued to keep me on the roster. But I was struggling throwing strikes. I was struggling hitting batters, walking guys, really doing bad mentally. And the Astros tried to put me on Prozac, put me on Zoloft. They put me on like these mental, you know, medications to try to help me out, you know. And now it's crazy because now I wake up and I just look at the Lord for my strength, and I don't take nothing, bro. I drink 1 sugar-free Red Bull in the morning to get my day going, but I take no meds. I don't have any anxiety. Like, it's just unbelievable what the Lord has done for me.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. So when you couldn't throw strikes, was there something that happened in the off season leading up to that first season, or in the season, like some kind of traumatic event, or was this just out of the blue?
So I ended up going into spring training. My first 2 years, I start doing well, and I end up going into spring training, and we're like, when you go to spring training, dude, there's like 180 grown men trying to get to the big leagues. Super intense. So the first day we go out there and we're like playing catch, and we're like lined up like I'm here and there's like a guy next to me, and like we're really in close quarters, you know. And I end up throwing a ball, and it's just crazy. I throw a ball and I almost hit the guy next to me. And then I started thinking to myself, like what the heck? Like, why did that happen? And then I end up throwing the ball again, and I end up throwing it boom over the guy's head. Then I end up throwing another one, and then all of a sudden, like, I just like started having anxiety from that moment. And then the next thing you know, it took over to fielding ground balls, throwing to first base, and then it took over to like playing catch, and then it just consistently happened for like 2 years. I don't know if you remember a guy named Rick Ankiel.
Oh yeah.
So he was a pitcher that, like, out of the blue one day, he couldn't throw strikes.
Right.
And he became a center fielder, and he became a big league center fielder. Well, for me, I kind of went through that thing, what he went through for 2 years, and it was horrible they call it the yips. And I ended up getting Chuck Knobloch. There you go. I love it. You're a baseball guy.
Yeah, from second base.
There you go. So I ended up getting the yips for a couple years. That's what we could say. And it was really, really hard on me. So I'm drinking heavily. I'm just out there partying. I'm just trying to escape who I am as a person. I ended up getting in a bar fight my second season that year. I get sent home, and I'm thinking that I'm done with baseball. But for some reason, during that off season, I had a lot of time away, and I didn't even think about baseball. And I was just working. I was still working at the bar, but I didn't think about baseball. And then all of a sudden, I realized they didn't fire me, or they didn't kick me off of the baseball team. The Astros did not release me. And I come back into spring training that 5th year, and I had that time away, so like my head cleared, and I ended up throwing the first ball right. I was nervous. I threw the first ball right to the guy's chest. I go and win pitcher of the year that year, and I end up rocking like 3 more good seasons right after that in a row, and that's when I shot up to AA and AAA. So I was able to overcome that, and a lot of people in the organization were like, really like, man, dude, that is amazing that you overcame the yips, so I was able to overcome that, but I was never throwing 93 anymore. I was throwing probably like 90, 91. My fastball wasn't the same. My mechanics changed a little bit, but I was continuing to grind it out and play well every single day until the year that I tried Adderall, and that's when everything went downhill for me.
Okay, all right. So we'll get into that in a moment. Mimi just walked in, so this is Mimi.
Hello.
This is
Nice
Monty.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Monty. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so Mimi was out with the babies. Knew we have a grandchild, so she was just with the grandchild. Then she had to pick up her daughter, so she's here now.
Yes.
Nice, very nice to meet you.
Teenagers.
Thank you. Oh shoot.
Yes.
All right, so just to catch you up a little bit, Mimi, so Monty, he was great at baseball throughout his life. Went to the pros at an early age, 19, got drafted, and now we're just walking through his pro career kind of, and now we're going to get into the drug use here, where it started at.
So here was the Astros. Is that
yeah, so I had played with the Astros for 7 years, and
thank you.
And so I was coming into spring training for a big season. I was headed up into AAA, and I ended up having a shoulder injury. So I ended up showing up to spring training, and I'm hurt. So in baseball, everybody, you know how it is. You got to get better every day. Like every day matters. You work on your craft, and as you get better every day, the game slows down, and you're able to perform at a high level every single day. What happens was I ended up going to spring training hurt, and I'm sitting there in the clubhouse, in the locker room. You can't make the club in the tub. I'm seeing everybody getting better. I'm starting to get anxiety. I'm starting to drink a lot because I'm bored. You know what I'm saying? I'm still continuing to drink, all those things. And then all of a sudden I miss half the season. So half the season you go into AAA. These guys are ready. They're already rocking their midseason form. These guys are doing good. And the big league, AAA is like the big leagues without the superstar and without the third deck. So this is good baseball, So I get the call to go up there, up to AAA, and I sit there and I get put into a game, and I'm super nervous. I'm super stressed out. I start to feel like I did back when I had control issues, So I go out there and I end up hitting a couple guys, walking like 3 guys, and I get pulled out of the game. So I end up sitting in the dugout. I'm sweating, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, it's back. Like that the yips are back. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking, and I'm tripping. I end up going home. I don't even want to go to the field the next day, but I end up going because it's all I had. All I had was baseball, guys. It's all I knew how to do my whole life. So I end up going to the stadium, and I'm sitting there, and I'm telling my teammate, I'm like, man, I'm not feeling good, bro. And he goes, hey, man, why don't you try this pill? I said, I'll do anything. I was at a point of desperation. So I tried this pill. It was Adderall, and it's called amphetamine salts, right? And it entered my body, and within 5 minutes, everything got great. It was crazy. I was like, oh, my arm felt good. My anxiety went away. I was like, man, what is this? This is what I need. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking it's just a medication for ADHD. I'm not really knowing that it's amphetamine salts. I'm just thinking like, man, maybe I must have had ADHD. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm cured. I end up going out there. There's like 30,000 fans. The game is calm. You know what I'm saying? I'm like standing on the mound. I'm calm. I end up striking 10 in 4 innings. I end up pitching just pitching unreal, throwing 93 miles an hour, 10 strikeouts in 4 innings. I end up getting after the game feeling great. I end up drinking all night, waking up with no hangover. And I'm like, wow, what did I just found the most miracle thing on the planet. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I try to tell people that drugs, they disguise themselves as heaven, and then they take you straight to hell because you're messing with the reward system in your brain. You're messing with, so you're supposed to feel good after a hard day's work or doing kind things, you know, or walking with the Lord. These things were supposed to make you feel good. Well, of course, if you're having the worst day ever and you go boom when your brain with dopamine, you're going to feel amazing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we're hooked, because the obsession of the mind, which we suffer from, I'm a big guy in NA and all that, dude. So the obsession of the mind, you know what I'm saying, is what we suffer from, and it continues to try to tell us to go back out there and use one more. Once we put the substance in our body, there's something that happens within us as addicts that we become monsters. It's called the phenomenon of craving. Like, we cannot stop. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that night was amazing. I go to a doctor. I get prescribed now to Adderall. So my first day of my addiction, I'm driving to the stadium, my brand new Tundra. I'm making $5,000 a month. I still have the dream alive that I'm going to go to the big leagues, and I'm throwing 93 miles an hour, and it was like the most amazing day of my entire life at that time. But now we'll fast forward 4 years, and I'm playing in Canada now, and now I'm throwing 86 miles per hour. Now I have 3 doctors in each city. Now I'm strung out on Adderall, even going to Mexico to bring back amphetamine pills across the border. And now my truck's repoed, and now I'm not in organized baseball, and now I'm going back home to live with mommy at 31 years old because of my addiction. And then it was just, it was a horrible, horrible time. And the thing is, guys, it didn't even stop there. You know what I'm saying? The addiction would not stop. I continued to try to want to do amphetamine and chase pleasures, and it just did not end at 31. And for me, when I came home, I started hanging around with old people, you know, old people that I kind of never hung out with because I was a professional athlete. I was so focused on what I was doing, and I ended up getting caught up in methamphetamine, you know what I'm saying? So then I move over to methamphetamine because I don't have a doctor, because now I'm out of baseball. I don't have a prescription anymore. So now I'm going over to methamphetamine, and I'm working at FedEx, and I start doing good there. Then I start snorting it, and I'm hot around it, and then I get fired there after 3 years. And I get called into the doc office, and the guy goes, "Man, I'm going to save your life, man. We're going to let you go. We're going to fire you, man. You're strung out. We can tell you're on drugs, bro. You need to go get help." And it still didn't stop there. You know, I still continued to go back out there. And then because after I lost my job, I started hanging around just the neighborhood. And there was moments, Todd, in my addiction, like where I was walking the streets of my hometown, and I was walking, and I see my mom, she's a teacher, pull out of her school and walk and drive right by me and just put her head down, dude, and not even want to look at me. And like, those are just like crazy moments of like, when I look back and I'm like, oh man, Monty, like things are really bad. There was a time where I was in jail and I was getting my food, and there was a kid I played Little League baseball with who was now a cop. And I came up and I got my food, and he handed me my food, and I looked at him, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and we like didn't even say anything, you know. But just that moment right there was just like humbling experiences in my addiction. And for me, it just got on to bigger and better things. And then once I had no job, I had no way to pay for my drugs, I ended up committing crime. Now I was desperate. I ended up stealing from stores, and just to be able to walk out of the store, I ended up shooting. I'm using IV. I'm using the syringe to be able to get the courage to be able to walk out of the store and be a criminal. And then I ended up going to jail over and over again. You know what I'm saying? It just becomes this horrible process. And now, like, baseball was just a thing of the past now, man. Now I'm just a straight junkie. I've literally pushed everybody that I love away from me, because when we're in our addiction, we push the people that we care about away because we don't want to hear them tell us not to do what we're doing. And we end up pulling towards us the people that don't matter, the people that feed our addiction, the connect. We end up making those people like our gods, because all we want to do is get high. And we end up losing all the people that we love. We end up losing all of that, you know. And I went from going from stadium to stadium, playing in front of all these fans, to literally at the end of my addiction, from garage to garage, hiding from the police with people talking about what they were going to do in life, but they were too afraid to go outside because they're watching surveillance because they think the cops are outside. I mean, that's where my life had taken me to, from being in a locker room with 31 guys that are chasing their dream, that are professional athletes, to being in a garage with junkies that were just like, it was just unbelievable, you know, where my addiction took me to.
Wow. That is, it's like the fall from grace in a microcosm, you know, that you could have had your dream, and then through circumstances and all, you went to your rock bottom. I mean, I was an addict for almost a decade, on all pharmaceuticals. You know, it was Percocet was my main thing. I was doing 250 to 300 milligrams a day, spending more money than I made per week. I was spending on just my drug habit. So I got into a life of crime as well. So it really, when your moral compass gets thrown off, early on you said the dopamine, your reward system, that you're rewarding yourself, or you're feeling like you're rewarding yourself, and you're doing these bad things, then all of a sudden your whole moral compass is off.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll get you in a second, Mimi. I remember that I didn't drink because I was one of my only friends with my license in a car. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to drink and drive. My brother got a DUI when I was younger. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, that was my moral compass, was I'm not going to do that. But I'll still smoke weed, but I'll still take perks and drive. I'll drink lean and I'll drive, just the whole moral compass. It was all mixed up. Go ahead, Mimi.
I was just going to say almost the same thing. It's a very interesting way that you worded that you said it messed with the reward system in your brain. And that's, pharmaceuticals are like this artificial hack to something that you think is going to be super beneficial, but it is what it is. It's an artificial hack. It's not a good hack.
Yeah, not at all.
Right.
Not at all. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah. So and what you're saying with the moments of shame, of like ultimate guilt of seeing somebody, a classmate of yours is now on the other side of the jail as you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a humble thing that happens. And what happened with your mother, her putting her head down because she didn't want to see you, but she knew, those things, they touch my heart because I've been in similar circumstances. Like you said, you were at FedEx for a couple of years. I was at UPS for a couple of years.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that just line up, and I resonate with that so much. So, okay. So transitioning from the drug use into you being saved. So what was it that actually sent you to jail? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no worries, man. So we and like I said, man, our moral compass, this is what I was going to say. Our moral compass is like, I was saying, okay, I'm not stealing from people, I'm stealing from stores. Like that's how I justified what I was doing. But it ended up getting to where I ended up stealing from people. So me and at the very end of my addiction, now I'm strung out on heroin, you know what I'm saying? I'm strung out on meth, I'm strung out on everything, and now I've been in and out of jail so many times. I've just like committed to this lifestyle. I thought I was doomed to be a junkie for the rest of my life. I never knew. Right now talking to you guys where I'm at is just an absolute miracle, and I would, so we would look up estate sales on the internet, and then we had a box truck. Me and my friend Danny, we had a box truck, and then we would go, and then honestly, I would dress up like a Mormon, and I would be able to go ride the bike. The cops ain't gonna pull over a Mormon, you know what I'm saying? I'd go up to the front of the house, break into the house. We go in later that night, and we take the whole estate sale. We had tons of storage units, and we would sell it as swap meet. Dirt bag, you know what I'm saying? But what happened was I ended up getting caught, and I ended up getting caught for grand theft. I ended up getting caught from a felony. So from a ring camera from across the street ends up catching us. And I ended up finally going to jail for that. And I end up still at that time, the obsession is so strong. They tell me they were going to give me felony probation. And I'm like, yeah, give me whatever I need to get out. You know what I'm saying? I just want to get out. I want to do dope because the obsession is so strong to use, especially when you're on the needle, So I end up getting released on felony probation. I have absolutely no chance of doing felony probation, but I get out, start getting high again, start trying to play the whole thing, trying to go to like the meetings, I try to go to an outpatient rehab. And then we end up going into a group room, and I'm high, you know what I'm saying? I'm living in my buddy's car at this time, every night. And I'm high, and I'm going into this group room, and everyone's celebrating clean time, like a year, 2 years. And then the lady that runs it, she calls me into the office, and she calls my PO, and she goes, hey, this guy can't be an outpatient. He's got to be an intensive inpatient. He doesn't have enough tools to stay sober. And it's crazy because now when I look back, when she said that, I was like, what does she mean tools? What does she mean tools? And now being 3 years sober, man, I feel like Tim the Tool Man Taylor, baby. I just play it.
I love that.
Yeah, bro. But anyway, so they wanted to send me to a place called the Dream Center. And once it was a 2-year program. And dude, when the demon of the addiction is trying to not leave your body, bro, you're not going to want to go to a program. You know what I'm saying? Like I could not stop that demon that wanted to keep getting high. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it. And I was so afraid to come down. I was like, what happens to me is like the addiction, like makes your come down seem like it's going to be way worse than it actually is. And it keeps you getting high. But it's really when you just knuckle it and you just go out, it's really not that bad of a come down, but your brain makes you think it's going to be horrible, and it will continue to live in that lifestyle for so long, man. But I end up going on the run. And what happened, and what I like the prodigal son thing is because now if you look at it, you know, like I walked away from God, I got the 120,000. I walked away from the Lord, and I went and saw what was out there, you know. And then when I look back because we understand life backwards, but we live life forwards because we got to have faith, but we understand life when we look back, you know. And I can't help but believe that the week before I got clean, right? I'm living in Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, Upland, California, and all I'm doing is doing drugs for 3 years in that area, and I can't get out of that area. I cannot seem to get out of there. Well, my buddy Danny, he goes, "Hey, bro, we're gonna go be vendors up north now, up in Redding," and he goes, "We're gonna go be vendors up there at a parade." And I said, "Cool." And he goes, "Hey, bro, I don't want you to bring any syringes because I don't want you to embarrass us when you're up there." I said, "Okay." Even though in my mind I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know? So we end up going up there. So God takes me out of my environment. The Lord takes me out of my environment up to Redding, California now. And when I get up there, I go, I start seeing where they're vendors, dude. Everyone's getting high, man. You know what I'm saying? They're like carnies, you know? So I tell my boy, I said, bro, these guys are all getting high. So I go to a Rite Aid to get a syringe. Well, up there in Redding, they don't give you syringes without prescription. So I couldn't get one at Rite Aid. I couldn't get one at CVS. And then I walk all the way to Walmart, right? And I go and I get into the front of the line, and the lady goes, "No, sorry, sir, you don't have a prescription." And I literally, dude, I tell her, I said, "Ma'am, I'm on drugs and I need a syringe." And she looks at me and she goes, "No, get out of my store, you junkie." I walk out to the side of the building and I literally drop down and I just start crying, dude. And that was the moment, like the prodigal son in the pig slop, where he looked and I looked and I said, I cannot do this no more. But when I look back at my story, God plucked me out of that area, took me up there to where I couldn't get what I was addicted to. And then I came home and I turned myself in and I started my recovery at that moment.
Wow, that is incredible. Wow, just there's so much there that we can go on. And you know, I had that moment 7 years ago when I was in prison. I was in county jail at that time. My 90th day in, I wanted to get high up until that point. And if I had gotten bailed out, I would have gone high. But then there was just I turned to God and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not built for this. I am not supposed to be here. And I said, I don't know if you're real. I don't know what this all is, but I want to do something else. I don't want to do this anymore. And I asked for help, and then boom, this is where I am. You know, the next day I wasn't addicted to drugs anymore. Like the very next day I was like, oh, I don't have that veil over me that wants to get high anymore. I don't know what it was. It was like this energy that was just over top of me.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and at that time, I still didn't even know it was Jesus. It wasn't until last year that I have realized that it was Jesus all along, and He's now with me in this way that's so clear and present to me. But your story is very fascinating, and I resonate so much that He takes you, and it was like almost a tease. He brought you up to Reading, and you see all the people around you, and you can't do it because you can't get the tool that you needed. And you know, that's another coincidence, if you want to say, that you didn't have the tools. The woman said you didn't have the tools you needed, and then you went to Reading and didn't have
And you didn't have the tools that you needed.
I didn't have the tools, man. And I just
but you had it the whole time. And you know, praying to God, you finally humbled yourself to God, and He answered you in a big way. So how I want to get into now your saving process. So now you're 3 years clean, and you now work at a recovery center. Is that correct?
Yeah, I work at La Jolla Recovery. It's a private pay insurance recovery center. So it's for me, I love it. You know what I mean? It's not Christian based, you know what I'm saying? But what's so cool is that like I've been able to let the Lord shine through me in such a way that they like the clients ask me about my faith, you know what I'm saying? And I started a YouTube channel. I got a YouTube channel called The Hope Dealer. So back when I was in San Bernardino, there's a lot of gangsters down there in the San Bernardino area, and they used to always sit there and talk about, I'm the dope dealer, the dope. And I walked in one day, I said, hey, bro, check this out. I'm the hope dealer, baby. And they all loved it, bro. They were like, oh, that's sick. That's tight, bro. That's tight. So, I just started just saying it, and now it's just my little thing. I'm able to wake up and I'm able to spread the good news my own little way, because I feel like I have so much inside of me that I got to release it, and the YouTube channel is a way to do that. It's just about reaching one person that would like to see. And I just try to put out content. I do 2 shorts and I do 1 long video a day. And I just try to put out good content. But I work in treatment, and I just now I've been able to like show up to the houses, and I like, guys, hey man, will you pray with me? And we've gotten together and we've all prayed. And because to me, man, after 37 years of addiction, man, this is the way and the truth. We suffer from a spiritual malady, and we got to be able to walk with the Lord, and He will make our whole past make sense. And that's the gift, and as we seek the Lord, we'll understand that we can see the fiery arrows from the devil, and we're able to move and groove more, and we're able to keep away from him, to where I believe that if you're seeking the Lord hard enough, the devil will go for a weaker prey, like he'll go for other prey that he sees that's weaker out there. Maybe like when we were in our addiction and we couldn't see the fiery arrows, and they were like assassins that were hitting us, and we were chasing pleasures. But I feel like if I continue to stay with the Lord and stay tied with the Lord, I feel like I'm anointed, and I feel great, and I feel good, and I feel joy, and I can continue to walk in the light with the Spirit, which to me is the most powerful thing in the world. And that's walking in the light, hiding nothing from nobody, and then having the Spirit guide you. And I just feel so powerful when I think about that, because of my integrity's back. I worked the 12 steps, and I was able to get my integrity back. I was able to clear out all my baggage, and now I just continue to do the 12 step, which is to carry this message. And that's what I love to do. But yeah, I work in treatment, and I just love it, because I'm always constantly being a servant, because the leaders among us must be servants. So being a servant is what actually gives you confidence and makes me feel powerful. And for the first 9 months there, I worked as a front desk BHT. So I collected UAs, and I cleaned toilets, and I scrubbed floors. And now I've moved myself into operations where I do transport, man. I got a company car, man. I ain't worried about gas, baby. You know what I'm saying? I just play it. but I got a company car now, and I've worked myself into a nice role, but I've continued to keep that servant's attitude, because that's the only way I could have started at the bottom. When I first got out of treatment, I was riding a bike to work. I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning, working in a warehouse at 5, riding like a 45-minute bike trip on my Diamondback every morning for 6 months, staying humble, continuing the process. But my whole purpose throughout this whole thing, these last 3 years, has been spreading the good news. So I'll be sitting there inside the warehouse working on the spot welder, listening to the sermons, listening to Rick Warren, listening to Joyce Meyer, listening to Joel Osteen, listening to T.D. Jakes, just listening to all my sermons, getting ready to do what I was going to share the next time I was able to speak at a meeting.
Well, when I got out of prison and I was going to my meetings, the first job I had, I had to go to the hood. So I'm in Philly, North Philly was my halfway house. And
Okay.
I'm in the hood of hoods right there.
Yeah.
And I had to go to the deepest, darkest place to catch a bus at 3:30 in the morning. Well, it was like 4 in the morning. I had to leave the halfway house. I had to get special permission to leave at 3:30, take a subway down to Broad and Erie, wait there for the bus, and it was like 45 minutes. Then sometimes when I would go back to my parents' house, when I was transitioning from the halfway house to my parents' house, it was 2 train rides plus a subway. So it was like an hour and a half to get to work. And I was doing it to go wash dishes and like just scrub work, just really. And when I say scrub, I don't mean like a person, like really like,
scrubbing.
Yeah, I had like no fingernails because I was using metal scrubbers.
The Brillo pad. Yeah.
And I had no fingernails. My fingernails didn't grow for 9 months after I stopped working there, because they were just gone, just shot from doing that work. And when you do hard work like that, I love that our stories resonate so much, because you do hard work like that. God wants you to start your foundation from the very depths. He wants you to get down there and know that you don't want to do this again. He wants you to experience the not the shame and the guilt, but the overcoming of that. By now you are facing what you have done to the world. Now you are starting at you're riding a bike 45 minutes, you're going
like a real penance
on the subway. Yeah,
sort of.
it's exactly that. And For me, I didn't get into NA and AA. I didn't need it. Like I said, once I prayed, I wasn't an addict anymore. So I just continued on doing my stuff, which wasn't working with addicts. I did have to go to meetings at when I got released from state prison and was in the halfway house. I had to go to meetings for 6 months. It was 4 days a week for 2 months, 3 days a week for 2 months, and 2 days a week for 2 months. And then I finished that. I never failed a urine. I wasn't an addict anymore, so I didn't go to those meetings. Now, to me, the meetings really helped me do what I do now with the podcast, in that I tell my story and I have others come on here and tell their story, because I realize that the magnitude of the healing that goes on in those conversations, of just sharing your story, of how much that helps people. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, I can do that on the podcast, and I do it, and I love it. So for you now, for me, I wouldn't necessarily want to work with addicts. Not that that's just not my calling. It's not one way or another. But for you being in that field still, how is it on a day-to-day basis? Do you struggle with addiction, or are you feeding off of all the sobriety around you?
So for me, man, I have to stay very strong in my recovery. I continue, like, for me, I went through the Salvation Army. So I went through a place called the ARC. It's an adult rehabilitation center. It's a free rehab, and I did a year there. So there at the Salvation Army is where I learned how that I love to spread the good news. And I was in there during COVID. So when COVID locked down the whole place, when a lot of people were relapsing because of the whole COVID thing, like, I actually was put into this place that was getting my meetings in, getting my church in, getting my work in. Like, I was actually continuing to have a solid program, and I can feel the benefits of that now as I've gotten into, out of treatment. I've been out of treatment for a year and a half. So when I mean out of treatment, like, me and my wife, we pay for our own apartments, you know what I'm saying? And my wife's in recovery, and she works for the same treatment as me. And she's actually from Philly. She graduated from Lehigh University. And she went to East Darby, I think, high school out there.
Oh, that's our
close.
county. Yeah, we're Delaware County. Tell her we're both from Delaware County.
Yeah, so she went to school out there, and then I played ball at Camden, the Camden River Sharks, right there.
Okay, very cool.
Right across the bridge. But yeah, so working in recovery, bro, and I'm around, like, so my treatment center has maintenance, so they have Suboxone maintenance, you know what I'm saying? And so we're around a lot of medications, but I just continue to I feel like the obsession has been lifted, for me. I don't really think about using. I'm so into my purpose, into sharing the good news, and using my testimony to save lives, and I want to continue to do that. That, like, I have drugs go through my hands all the time, Klonopins. I have a lot of stuff going through my hands. We compensate drugs from clients and all that stuff. And I never had any moment where I was like, oh, I want to use this or I want to do that. I've put myself out there and hold myself accountable so much to where, like, it would be honestly an absolute catastrophe for somebody to go down to Imperial and open a tent and find Monte Mansfield with a needle in his arm. You know what I'm saying? Like I've put myself out there. I share in a lot of meetings. Every Saturday morning, I do the 7 o'clock devotion at the Salvation Army, where I get up for 45 minutes and I speak the word right on the stage with all the men. And I've been to other Salvation Armies. I've done videos for Salvation Army. So I try to put myself out there to make myself be like, okay, if I did go out there and relapse, it would be a total catastrophe, if that makes sense.
Right. You want to have integrity, accountability.
I want to have all that stuff, man. For me, getting my integrity back, it's so crazy because when I was so when I first got clean, I went to jail 3 months, and I went to the county and I slept, and I ended up going to jail, and I ended up getting sentenced to the Salvation Army. But right before I was about to get released to the Salvation Army, the obsession came back up and was trying to talk me into going back out again. It was like telling me what it always says, like, oh man, you can go get clean later. And like, bro, now I'm 37, missing front teeth, 180 pounds. Bro, this is later in life. You know what I'm saying? And it was time to get clean. And I was able to get in a cop car and go from the jail in a cop car to the Salvation Army. So I never had really freedom. I went right to the Salvation Army, and I got put in that program a year. So when I got out of baseball, I was yearning for the ability to try to find a new way of life. But all I had done was go to stadiums every night, sleep until 12, 11, party. Like, I literally lived a life of like a kid, like baseball, being a baseball player, it's like a child's game, so you get this, like, I tell people, like, I never grew up until I was 37, and I finally went to the Sally, and I worked there for 40 hours a week every day for free. You know what I'm saying? To work for my program, you know, and I learned how to be humble. And I finally, like you said, the Lord put me at the bottom so I can realize what it's like to be down there. So then if I can handle a little, now I can handle a lot, you know, and I was able to do a whole year in that program. And then somebody on the H&I panel, it's a hospitals and institutions panel, where they came in, and I was sitting there, and I had never shared my story because I was so ashamed of like being a pro athlete and where I had gone. I kind of buried that whole side of my life. And he ends up asking me to be on his panel, and I was super nervous, and I'm shaking. And I get up and I shared my story for the first time. And the reaction of all the guys after the meeting, they come up to me, man, that's so awesome that you played ball, man. That's such a powerful testimony. And now I've shared my testimony now hundreds and hundreds of times now, and I'm super calm and collect, and I'm super like thankful when I do it. And sometimes I get nervous, but God always shows up when I take that step. When I make that first word, God shows up for me every time.
Yeah, wow. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of willpower to be in the position that you're in. So I really commend you for all that you're doing, not only for the humans and the addiction, but also in spreading the word of Christ. When you're talking about Suboxone and Klonopin, and I'm sure Xanax has come across you, those things for me, that's what I landed in prison. I was burglarizing pharmacies. Like I said, my drug of choice was perks, but when I would get off every so often, it would be through using Suboxone and Klonopin, because we had those doctors just writing prescriptions for cash. You know, it was horrible. The Suboxone and Klonopin were so much worse for what happened to my mental status, because with the perks, I mean, I was fine. I could operate, you know, I just wanted more. I was an asshole at times, but I wasn't as deranged as I became with the Suboxone and the Klonopin. So I wish that we could be in a place that had recovery for spirit, because that's what I feel like really recovered me. I feel it coming from you as well, that it's the spirit in us that recovered, because just swapping one addiction for another addiction, I mean, I guess it can have a chemical effect on us somewhat, but to me, it was just like when I was clean and clear from everything and I asked for God's help, boom, it's like the chemical dependency was gone.
I love
And
it.
it's because the spirit is what needs the healing. It's the
Right.
mental and emotional things that need to be looked after. And I wish we had nationwide a more holistic approach to these things, but I know insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies and doctors and all these legalities get involved, and it holds people back from actually recovering.
Yeah.
And the way that a lot of people, especially addicts, the people who become addicts, most of them have had some kind of a bad connection with God or the church, I'll say, in their teenage years, their early years. Something has happened to them that they don't trust it, they don't want to go to it. And I see it's like this whole scenario that just really holds people down from knowing the truth. And then, like, people like you and I slip through that, we see this on such a more grand scale that, okay, it's the spiritual things. And it's not, I'm not talking about Christianity and uh everything that the pastor says. I'm talking about the relationship with Jesus Christ, who will take you out of wherever you are, and it doesn't matter where you are in any of your understandings. He will come to you and he will guide you. And I say it all the time, he'll walk you around the mountain. Here, around and around the mountain she comes. It's just going to be, he's going to walk with you. He's going to be there with you. You just have to invite him in. Like you said in the beginning, he's going to provide everything, but you got to take that final step and just ask him to be there. And when someone does, then like it's a tidal wave of love and understanding and compassion and grace. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people don't come to the Lord because they think of like the Father, or they look at like kind of how you were saying how your father was, you know, and you, if you looked at the way your father was and you didn't look at how God, the way God is, you know, you might have this different conception on what God is like, you know what I'm saying? And for me, what happened, you know, what my understanding on everything is that before Jesus came down and died on the cross, is that we try to live up by the laws of Moses, or we try to live by the 10 commandments. So we never felt like we were worthy, or we always felt shame. We never felt like we could have a relationship with God. And what Jesus did was come down and died on the cross so we can come to him with our sins. And now he's the bridge to God, you know. And for me, like I tell guys at my work, or when I say my God talks to me like the best baseball coach I wish I would ever had. My God talks to me like, hey, Monty, you can do this, man. Hey, you probably shouldn't do that, man. We got this. Like my God, my self-talk is so positive now, but the one that bridged that gap was Jesus. So now I can come to him and feel like God's my best friend. And that's why I'm so thankful. And so many people are like, a lot of people, they don't want to turn over to the spiritual thing because they still want to do bad. They still want to chase pleasures. They still want to chase women. They still want to go out and drink. Like I understand that, because that's what kept me away from God for so long. But man, once you free yourself, like we have so much power on the inside of us that we can free up. Like I feel better than I ever felt any day on drugs or even high. Like I feel this unbelievable power every day. I feel connected with God. And then when I don't, I know God's God. I don't panic. I just know that, hey, God's God, you know, and I continue to seek him every day. And I feel like it's just, I feel like I can do anything. Like I wake up at 5 and like I feel like one day that the Lord is going to have me spread the good news to a bunch of people. I just feel that, you know, and I will continue to like chase that. I don't know if there's a book called The Secret or what, you know, but I continue to pray every day, and I ask the Lord to take my vessel and cleanse my vessel and use my hands as instruments and have my mouth decrease as he increases. And I try to ask for what I can handle for that day, and I try to live just for today, you know, because today matters. And he's turned my whole life around. The thing about a lot of insurance-based rehabs is they're trying to meet the client halfway, so the Suboxone comes into play. And I'm fine with a client not being on fentanyl and dying, because fentanyl is killing so many kids and so many people right now, and it's in so many drugs. So whatever can keep you, you know, from dying, I'm all for it. But also you got to understand that, you know, or private pay rehabs, they have to fill beds, and as each bed is filled, then that place is paid. So there, if you have Suboxone there and you're sitting there on heroin, it's like, oh well, let's go to that treatment center because they do Suboxone maintenance. You know, like at my treatment center, they allow you to bring your pet. They allow you to have they have couples rehab. And I'm like, and it's all just marketing tools to be able to get the person there to get the bed paid. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I love the Salvation Army, because it's state funded. So 120 beds are already paid by the state. So if they lose a bed, that bed's already paid for by the state. So that's why there's rules, there's accountability. Like you can't just, you got to make your bed in the morning. You got to wake up early. You got to get to chapel. You got to be on time, and all these rules. And the rules are what kept me safe. To this day, I wake up and I still follow the rules. I love Proverbs. I love reading Proverbs. I love Ecclesiastes. You know, King Solomon, he had every opportunity to chase all pleasures on the planet, and they all ran dry, to where he realized that it's only walking right with God is what's going to bring true happiness on this planet. And I love the Proverbs because they keep me safe, but because of the Spirit, God's grace is what sets me free.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome, my friend. I love you have such a large spirit about you, and God sets us up in our fall from grace for certain reasons. You know, I went through my stuff so I could help certain people. You went through your stuff so you could help certain people. I really feel that your testimony is very powerful. I feel that you are understanding the spiritual nature of things and doing what you just said of, you know, fill me up, let them see you more, let me be less. You know, that is a powerful thing right there. And as long as you're guiding people with things like that, and those people take your message of that and they do that, you know, it doesn't really matter what they're on now, wherever they are, you know, they're going to end up being in God's lap, because they're going to see. That's what Paul talks about all the time in the New Testament, is show your neighbors by how you act that they want Jesus in their life. You know, that's how you got to show them, by being a man of Christ. And I love everything that you're doing, everything you're talking about here. It's an amazing testimony. It's a really beautiful thing, even though you went through a lot of dark things, and I'm sure it was super unpleasant for a very long time, and it felt like you probably didn't want to live at several times. That was for me. I was very suicidal all the time. It was just I didn't care to live any longer, and now I can't wait to wake up in the morning. Even
Yeah, same here, bro. Yeah.
I got to wake up at 4 in the morning after podcast until 11 o'clock at night. Like, it's tough, but I mean, I love doing it. I love being able to do the things that I do.
And you think like there was a fear that came into my mind, like when I was 37 and I looked in that mirror and I was like strung out, and I got around people that when you're 37 years old and you're around in the methamphetamine heroin world, man, you see a lot of people dying in their early 50s. You know what I'm saying? And you start to think like, man, like I only got like 13 years left to live, like if you think about it, because eternity is, like they say, like from here to the other side of the room, and our life is like this big, like I know life goes by quick. I played pro baseball for 10 years, and it's been 10 years after that, you know what I'm saying, where we're talking right now. And I just wanted to say that, on my deathbed, man, I don't want to be sitting there thinking to myself, it's like the biggest nightmare is to be sitting there on your deathbed and being like, I chased all the wrong things on this planet. And what was I really even here for? Like, that to me is such a scary thought. But now I could be like, I'm 37 years old. Yeah, I lived a life of sin. I wandered in the wilderness for 37 years, but now I turn myself over to the Lord, and I've continued to walk in the light with the Spirit. And now when I pass away, I can look back and be like, I actually had an impact on this planet, and I think that I will be able to pass over peacefully. And I work with a guy that works in he works in the emergency room, and he says that people that aren't right with the Lord, when they're finding out they're about to die, he said they scream and kick and fight. They do not want to go to our next step, and it's because they're not right with the Lord. But he said in an emergency room, the people that are right with God that pass away, they go peacefully, and that's one thing that just scares me. I don't want to be there dying and just being scared and not knowing where I'm going, and that's why I just, I love the Lord. He's made my past make sense. He's bridged the gap for me to be able to have this relationship with God. And like, I transform to the word of the Lord. I don't conform to the world, because there's so much bad out there. Like, I go on TikTok and I'm like, what is all this stuff on here? Like, I trip out. And I heard something about like TikTok started in China, and over in China, the algorithms over there, they end up like going around for, like, if you are an engineer or you do something positive or something that's going to help the youth grow. Where over here, the algorithm picks up twerking and acting like a fool, and it like ends up making people think they can be famous for like behaving badly,
Right.
And I don't want to conform to the world, man. I want to transform to the power of God.
It's that reward system. It's thrown off, It's just like you were saying with the drugs, that we reward ourselves. That's how society rewards us now. It's for acting like fools, because we acted like fools, and we created this society that rewards people that act like fools. It's everything is inverted and just and reversed here. Is there anything left that you wanted to get into that we didn't talk about?
No, bro. I just, like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on this podcast. I'm so thankful. I love it. It says the Godcast. I love that. And I'm just thankful for, man, to have the opportunity. And I really love your story, but I really feel like we relate tremendously with the whole baseball. Just our whole story is almost like a mirror to each other, to be honest with you, just maybe different times at different eras and different times of our lives. But I feel like God brought us together to do this right now. And I'm just super thankful that you wanted to hear my story. And I'm just so blessed. And you don't mind if I read one scripture real quick before
do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just love this scripture, because I feel like when I turn myself over to the Lord, like now I've been able to soar like an eagle. And it's crazy, because like an eagle, it's all like crows and stuff. When the eagle flies too low, a crow can pester, or like, a crow can pester the eagle. So what an eagle does is it soars above all. It doesn't soar with the chickens and the turkeys. You know what I'm saying? It soars. And I love this Isaiah 40:31. It says, they will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And I feel like ever since I've walked with the Lord, I've been able to wake up in the morning and have more. Oh, you have that on there? I love that, bro.
Tattoo of the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, baby, Philly. We have a lot of clients out here from Philadelphia. They come out here to whole sunny San Diego to get clean. But I love that because I feel like you said, man, I wake up and I don't use an alarm clock, bro. I wake up and I'm just like ready to attack the day, dude. I do my little YouTube stuff. I listen to some motivational stuff. I listen to some sermons, and like I can pull energy from like just thoughts from like, hey, I need energy, let's roll. I need energy, let's roll. It's not like, oh, I need this artificial energy or I need to get high just to be able to function. Like it's just this whole new way of life, and I wish everybody would get it. I wish everyone would get it. Everyone in their own timing, they will. I believe that. It took me 37 years, but I just continue to try to plant seeds. That's what I try to tell myself at my work. I'm planting a seed because maybe 10 years from now, this client might be like, man, remember that time that Monty said this? And another way that helps me be able to handle with the addicts is I tell myself Jesus was around the sickest of them all. So that's what I need to be around. That's how I'm able to handle it, because it can get off the rocker, man. People in early recovery are manipulative. All they want, they're crybabies, man. It's very, very, very hard to deal with early recovery, But I tell my mom, like my mom's like, Monty, you used to be worse than that. And I got to realize that, man, I'm 3 years clean, man, that these guys are like in their first 30 days. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just super thankful. And I believe that gratitude is like the key that links everything together, because like Rick Warren said, gratitude releases small amounts of dopamines from the brain that continues us to have joy, and happiness comes from things that happen to you, so they can come and go like the wind. So we got to try to have gratitude. And I love that, because I know that any one of us, if we look back with thankfulness, we do feel some type of happy way. Like I believe that it does release dopamine. So I will continue to have gratitude, man.
Yeah. So, I definitely think that we are brothers in Christ. Like you said, our stories, they relate. They're just off just a little bit. My experience and your experience, but it's the same generalized things that were happening to us. So that's an incredible thing. Now, I did want to ask, because you just said that you listen to the motivational stuff. Now, for anyone out there who may be listening to this, what do you have you ever gotten tired of that? Like one day all of a sudden, you struggle and you're like, I don't want to listen to this, for whatever reason you're like throwing a fit, and you need something different. Have you ever had that? And if you have, what have you gone to?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I literally when I first got out of treatment, I literally listened to every single Joyce Meyer sermon you could ever imagine. So my brain started kind of panicking, going, well, what, I need something else. And then all of a sudden God brought TD Jakes into my life. And then people would say, oh, Joel Osteen's a prosperity preacher and all this, but man, I listen to his stuff and he keeps me positive, bro. Like I love what he does for me. You know what I'm saying? And then I got over to seeing Rick Warren, because he started Celebrate Recovery. He wrote the Purpose-Driven Life. So I just allowed God to literally when I got tired of something, I've allowed God to open that door, because I believe if we seek, like for me, I want to spread the good news. So I wake up every day and I'm hyper vigilant to do that. So every opportunity that I have to be able to do that, say if two people are like 15 feet from me and I hear them say, hey man, I run a podcast, I'm going to hear that because I'm hyper vigilant to being able to do that. So I just continue to look out for new, and if we talked 6 months from now, I'd have another, a pastor or someone else that I'm listening to. But I love Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker. He said that we got to want to turn our lives around as bad as we want to breathe. You know what I'm saying? And I listen to him a lot. I love Steve Harvey, man. Steve Harvey's got some good advice. I like to listen to him. And I just continue to keep seeking different speakers, different things. And I get things from what people say off my videos, and I take them over to my videos. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I'll take something like some type of saying that someone says, like Steve Harvey, he said, it's not about what we receive or what we get. It's about who we become is what brings us happiness and joy on this planet. And I love that. Like I can think of that and I can live by that, because I believe that who I am now is why I feel joy, because of the man I am. The man I was 3 years ago wasn't joyful. I wasn't happy because of the man I was. If I had $1 million and I was that person, I wouldn't be happy. But if I was $1 million with who I am now, I would be happy. So it doesn't matter. And that's the change of perspective. Like they say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So before I had the change of perspective, I used to be like, does that mean that like I can go do anything I want on the earth? Does that mean that I can go be a movie star? Like I didn't understand it, but now I understand that all that means is that I can handle sick, I can handle poor, I can handle sad, I can handle happy, I can handle skinny, I can handle fat, I can handle all things on this planet through Christ who strengthens me. That's the change of perspective that I've had in my life, you know. And it means to me now, it means that we can handle all seasons through Christ that strengthens us. It doesn't mean that we're going to get superhero powers and be able to do these crazy things. It just means that now we can handle all things on this planet.
Yeah. Well, I love everything you're saying. You know, he does the same thing for me with music. It was just, I
That's what I was thinking about.
I was listening to gangster rap was what I listened to. And then one day I cut it off and I started listening to worship music. And all I listened to for, I don't even 3 months was Kanye's album, Jesus is King, and Sunday Service Choir, Jesus is Born. They were the only 2 albums I listened to. And then slowly but surely, he kept bringing in worship music, and then all these wonderful Christian hip hop artists. As one by one, that I get their whole library of music down. Then he introduced me to another one, and it's just same thing with podcasts. And so, you know, again, same things happening to both of us. That when we're just trying to do the will of the Lord, when he sees that we need something new in our lives, he introduces it to us. You're right. It's so beautiful. Go ahead.
So, no, the thing about music too is that when you go to the Salvation Army, that's all we listen to is worship music, K-Love. You know, that's all we listen to in there, and that's all I listen to really. Like I was the same way. It's funny how you say that. Like I used to listen to gangster rap, Lil Wayne, all that stuff. You know, all the time. You know, I used to think I was a dope dealer, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like back in my addiction, and now all I do is bump Christian rock. You know, Christian music. But I seen guys in the Salvation Army doing really, really well. And then they graduate, and then they start listening to that old gangster rap, and within a couple of weeks, man, they transform right back into that old guy, and they're back on the block. Happens all the time, you know. So I continue to listen to I love Zach Williams, you know what I'm saying?
We were listening to him earlier.
I love Jeremy Camp. I mean, I just love gospel because it hits home, man. It hits home to me. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and now this change of perspective and I feel like I found the way and the truth. I feel like I found the secret to life. You know, like there's no more searching. It's seeking this, and this is what's going to save your life is to turn your life over to the Lord, because we suffer from a spiritual malady. And we need that spiritual experience.
Yeah, for any of your guys out there that like rap, turn them on to Lecrae and KB. I mean that they're my go-to. They're like the top 2 artists in my opinion. So, Mimi, do you have any final questions here?
I was just gonna say, what advice or encouragement would you have for anyone that is still struggling with I don't want to say struggling with wanting to give up their addiction, but just struggling with addiction in general? What gets you kind of over that hump and really wanting to focus on the recovery side?
Yeah, so for me, it's only the addict has to make up in their mind that they're going to want to get clean, because the bottom line is like, and you got to want to get clean to yourself. For me, you got to have the gift of desperation. Like they say, you got to change one thing and that's everything, but you got to be able to want to do that, you know, and it's very, very hard because like I said, we suffer from an obsession that's going to continue to try to take us out. But we got to understand, you know, like the addict has to want it, because there's people that I know that will go the whole treatment for somebody else, and they already know that they're going to go get high again right when they get out there, you know. But an addict that's struggling, I would just say, hey man, you're not alone. There's tons of people out there. Reach out for help. Don't quit hiding everything in the dark. Bring things to the light, you know, and get some help, because there is help out there. There's a lot of people out there that want to help you. Just continue to understand that God loves you and that God wants you, and God is waiting for you to make that choice. And I'm only 3 years sober. Like this isn't like 20 years sober. I'm 3 years sober. Just a year and a half ago, I was sitting in the pews of the Salvation Army. 3 years ago, I was putting a needle in my arm just to be the person that I hate. But for me, I had to reach that point of desperation where like I just literally I can't help but not believe that God pulled me out of that city to help me get clean. and he took away my tool, like you said. And now I believe in my heart that God saved me to be able to save other addicts, especially fentanyl addicts, because I never was around fentanyl. I got saved right before fentanyl. So I'm trying really hard to put fentanyl awareness out there, because it's crazy. Like what happens out here is like these kids will find out, these kids will end up ODing, they'll end up overdosing. And then what happens is there's no consequence for them. What happens is there's a fire truck, police truck, there's an ambulance, the whole city's outside, but all they do is wake up and they just want to get high again, because the only ones that suffer are the people around them. You know what I'm saying? If an overdose ended up with you chopping your arm off and you having your arm chopped off, you probably would never, ever, ever, ever use drugs again. But all you do is wake up from it. And the thing is that obsession that's taking the fentanyl addict out there to do just one more, they're now dying, because that one more is killing them, because they're going to treatment, they're getting some clean time, and they don't have that tolerance anymore, and they end up killing themselves. But we got to understand, man, that like this is a killer out there. But if you are out there struggling, man, there is hope, guys, and just continue to never give up, keep trying, keep working hard. And you got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, because there is a whole another way of life out there to follow with the Lord, and he will make your whole past make sense, and he will redeem you, and he will give you so much strength, and he will give you so much courage, and then he will turn your weaknesses into strength. So you'll be able to have this ultimate confidence, knowing that even though you have weaknesses, he will turn them to strength at the right time. I mean, I can go on and on for days about the Lord. I mean, I'm just so I'm just
I
so
like
ecstatic.
that you said he'll make your whole past make sense.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's a
Go ahead.
huge statement, and all by itself.
So does your past disciplines from playing baseball, does that help you, with the exercise and different things you had to be disciplined in? Does that help you now in recovery be disciplined?
Yeah, so I always was a guy. I had a lot of, I worked very hard. I went hard for my craft. I'm not going to lie. When I went into treatment, the whole gym thing, guys, I realized building your spirit was like the key to life. So I wake up and feel great every day, but I'm not a big gym guy. I used to work out a lot in my life. I worked out tons and tons and tons, but like I'd rather be like, me and my wife like to go hiking. We like to do things like that. We like to get outside. We're not real big, like throw the dumbbell around. I'm not real big on sobriety. but like I said, I learned in the Salvation Army that it was the spirit that we needed to work on, and the spirit is what's going to make us feel good. So I've went really hard for the last 3 years on the spirit. So I feel great. I feel good. But also and my discipline comes from working on the spirit, but I'm continually like watching over my thoughts. I'm continually seeking
the mental
God.
discipline.
The mental discipline. Like as a baseball player, we had to continually be able to like stay calm. So like when I'm on the mound, I had to not let nothing affect me for the 9 innings. And if I did that, I was able to at least compete and be able to sit home at night and be like, okay, at least I was a man that game. You know what I mean? So now if I continue to keep the storm on the inside calm, it doesn't matter how strong the storm is on the outside. I'll always go to bed at night doing my moral inventory, knowing that at least I'm giving the earth and the planet, and I'm giving the Lord at least my best opportunity to be able to have success. I'm 41 years old, man. I'm not 25. I'm not 20. So, I feel like I kind of missed a lot of time while doing drugs, but like God has totally changed. I would have never thought I would be married with my own apartment, with my own, like I would have never thought I would have had all these things in 3 years. That's like not that long, in my opinion. It's long, but it's not that long, so
Right.
the God has totally changed my life. Like now I pay my bills, like I'm just amazed on what the Lord has done for me, it's crazy.
Amen. Amen, my brother. So final question for you. This is what I like to ask everybody going out is, what do you do? I mean, I kind of got a feeling, but what do you do to stay grounded in your mission that God has placed you on earth for? How do you keep yourself grounded to just being not necessarily any particular way, but just being okay with who you are and where you are?
Yeah. So I know Apostle Paul talked about contentment, when he was in prison, that it was the key to life, was to be content. So I really try hard to stay content. I try to just, for me, I show up to meetings and I see that fresh pain. I work with that fresh pain with other addicts, and it keeps me humble because I realize it keeps me grounded. I realize like that I was that same person, you know what I'm saying? Because there's times like, say if I stepped away from from like going to meetings, for me at least, going to meetings and seeing that fresh paint, you can start to think like, hey man, I got this, man, I'm good. Like you can start to feel that pride start to build up. But I continue to just give back, be a servant. And one of my life mottos is like this: the leaders among us must be servants. I totally believe that. And those sayings and just the Bible like that, those things keep me humble, because like I said, there was a time in my addiction, I think back to that last day on that side of that building crying, that I remember when I first got high, and I remember actually praying to the Lord and asking him if he wanted me to get on Adderall, but I was already on Adderall, so of course I wanted to get on Adderall. You know what I'm saying? Like, it lied to me, and I ended up thinking that I was actually okay with getting on this drug because it was a prescription, and it ended up actually ruining my whole life, to think that it went from one pill that one day at 28 years old to being exactly where I'm at 37 on the side of a building, crying my eyes out, and just all that experience in between. Like, I lived that, you know what I'm saying? So that right there, it keeps me grounded and keeps me humble. But just having like we talked about the prodigal son, how the dad got happy the son came back because he knew the son would never leave again. That right there is like what keeps me grounded, because there's no way I can walk away from God. I'm so scared to do that, because I saw what was out there. I'm not 20 years old going, maybe I could do this, maybe I can do that. I'm 41. I did this, I did that. This is what works. And now I cling to it, and it keeps me grounded. It just keeps me grounded. Like I can't
You're
get
battle tested.
Yeah, bro. Like I can't get cocky, dude. I can't. God won't let me, dude. Like, God won't let me. He just lets me be humble. And now I know that's more powerful than ever being cocky or having pride. You know what I'm saying? And the change of perspective is the building from the inside out, to where, like, yeah, I don't have a house and like a brand new Tundra, and like I don't have all that stuff, but I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. And he's building up my character. And as long as we keep a good attitude while we wait for the blessing, then we'll have the character to handle the blessing. And then I like to tell people, man, when you walk in the room, you become the blessing. And that's probably the biggest thing in the world, is to walk into a room with a bunch of addicts, for me, and then be like, man, and like, you're the blessing to them. You know, you're the walking blessing.
Well, and it's amazing. You can see that what you have now is a blessing versus what you had before, the material items and that big payday that you had before. That was a blessing in itself, but you didn't recognize it for what it was at that time. So now what you have now means so much more to you. So the blessing is well received. So therefore it means more. It's a stronger blessing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and my shirt here, for anyone struggling, enjoy Jesus Christ, and
I
thou
love
shalt
that.
never thirst.
I love that.
Yeah, if you're struggling out there, go ahead and pray. I mean, it worked for me. It worked for Monty. If you pray and you mean it and you really want it, it works. All right, so we'll say goodbye to our audience. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming by. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the outro, and we'll see you there. All right, everybody. So you just heard our interview with Monte Mansfield, and it was a great talk. I want to again ask you to please like, comment, share, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this at. And I want to thank you for staying for the outro, for the analysis at the end. It's just me because, like I said, Mimi had to step away. Everything should be okay. It's nothing too life-threatening, but it was a family emergency nonetheless. I did want to thank my new Patreon member, Jared. Jared signed up right after the live Q&A. So thank you, Jared, for being a Patreon member. Big shout out to you. He was interacting with the show and enjoyed it so much that he signed up. And I am having a giveaway once I get to 15 Patreon members. I have a whole bunch of DVDs and books that I was just sent. You're not going to be able to see. I was trying to pull it up on camera, but I have a whole bunch of books and DVDs of different things to do with fallen angels, the deception of that, transhumanism, all sorts of Christian conspiracy type of things. I'm going to be doing a giveaway for. As soon as we get 15 Patreon members, I'll do a random drawings, and I'm going to be giving away multiple things, so it's not just going to be a one-time thing or one person getting one thing. It's going to be over time, several things are going to happen. So if you're listening to this now, so this is March 2022 when I'm saying this. So if you're catching this later on, then it may not still be in effect, or it may be, but you'll just have to catch up on the newer episodes to find out where everything stands with that. And I want to get into this episode a bit. This was a great testimony by our guest Monty. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to do the things that he has been able to do, to go to that deep darkness and to speak about it, you know, to that stuff hits home, with myself, especially. And that is what my podcast started as. I wanted to tell my story to people, and I wasn't necessarily comfortable with going back to the NA and AA type of feel. I didn't like the vibe that was there. So that's not something that I wanted to do. So that wasn't for me. So God instead opened this avenue up for me. And Monty has a ton of courage to be able to be in that environment, and he's strong in his faith, and I could feel his spirit. He's very strong, and he knows uh, a lot of his spiritual stuff. I mean, that's what it's about. When you're healing addiction, it's about healing the spirit, and it's about wanting to heal the spirit and then physically doing the work. And while physically doing the work, you work on the emotional stuff. It's all four states of being that I always talk about: the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. It's all four of them, but you have to heal the spiritual first. You have to want to heal, and when you want to heal, then the rest of it comes right with it. It it's just incredible. You'll you guys all heard all of the different stuff that just back and forth. It's just the same type of energy that I was experiencing, he was experiencing. Just so many different aspects. Just a wonderful type of healing that he has been through. It's just great. So let's see. I got the new Bible study. I do, well, not the new Bible study, but the Bible study that we're doing. I want you guys to really check all that out. You can send me a email with the subject Bible study, and if you want to be a part of it, and I'll send you the link. They live on the Patreon, and if you pay $3 or more per month, then you can join the Bible study. It's a really fun time. It's a lot of learning going on there. You can't get that Bible study anywhere else, but if you join it, you can join for free, or you can watch back for $3 a month. It's you know, it is what it is. I want to be able to protect those who don't want to be open to the public, but I do think that it's worthy of being recorded and put up for people who want to look at it. So that's where it is. And again, the Patreon's patreon.com/goodness over darkness. Go there and check that out. And I don't think that I have anything else. I want you guys to make sure you go check out Monty's stuff. And I'm going to do something new. So I'm going to close with a prayer. So I haven't done this yet, but this is something that I've been meaning to do, but I just haven't. So, all right. So we're going to close with a prayer here, especially, with the family emergency going on. So, dear God, we want to thank you for providing us with all of the things that you have provided us with today. We want to thank you for providing us with life and love on this day. We want to thank you for making these new connections and providing us with new outlets and bringing new brothers into our lives here today. This is such a wonderful thing that you're providing for us, that you're allowing us to do, to speak to one another, to really motivate each other and show the world that it can be done, that the impossible is possible. All things are possible through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And we just want to pray for all of the people out there that are in need. We want to pray for our family members who are struggling at the moment with different medical issues. We want you to please free them from the ills that are holding them. And we want to pray for anyone out there who's in addiction that hears this. We want you to please enter into them and show them that what we speak is true and that your healing powers are greater than all other healing powers. And as long as they have you, they need nothing else. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, everybody. So that is gonna do it. I will see you guys all on the next episode. Talk to you later. Bye.